Good morning to all my friends and family, and welcome to this episode of what I have learned from Anthony Robbins over all the years. A video that is a tribute to the great Anthony Robbins, given that he has been in a position to influence and help many people over the years. I've listened to his tapes, I've read his books, I've attended his seminars. The first seminar that I attended was back in the mid-90s, early to mid-90s, the UPW program, the Unleash the Power Within program. And I've had an absolute love affair with learning ever since those early days. And what I'd like to do is go on a journey trying to encapsulate all of the things that I've learnt throughout the years to share with all my friends and family, and to pass on to my children and grandchildren and further generations, so that this knowledge, this wisdom is never lost. Something that we can hold on to, pass on to the future generations, who will no doubt have their share of challenges in their life, just like we all have our share of challenges, and to see where it leads us. I might just go down here and cross over and then come back and continue the chat, the random chat that we're going to have this morning. So a lot of the stuff that I do is not scripted. It just comes from the heart, and I just have a couple of notes just to prompt me as I'm going, but we'll be making it up as we're going. But we'll be making it up based on a lifetime of reflection. So here we go. So one of the key points that Anthony makes in his material is that what seems impossible is really not. When we look back over our lives, or if we look over our lives, a lot of the things that we worried about, a lot of the things that we thought were impossible, when we apply ourselves, when we take bold action, end up being things that are much easier in hindsight than when they were in foresight. Because what happens is that we have a series of irrational fears that hinder our progress. Fears that come from our own life experiences, especially when you're young. As Aristotle says, dogs only bark at things they don't understand. And as we're growing up, we don't tend to understand everything. But once we do things, once we experience life, we realise that you can cross from one to another. You can use your experiences, you can use your mistakes, you can use the things that you've learnt to get you from one side to another. Because when it's all said and done, the art of learning is the ability to attach the unknown to the known. What you know is the foundation for what you can learn. And the more you know, the more you can learn. The more you do, the more you can do. But there is a call to action that requires us to basically unleash the power within us, and build momentum to get through the fears that are holding us back, the laziness that is keeping us on the couch, and to challenge those irrational fears, challenge the belief systems that we have, because the belief systems that we have created in our own minds or inherited from someone else aren't always relevant, because we are growing, we are developing, we are changing either on our own accord, or life is pushing us, society is moving us from one place to another, with or without our permission. We get for what we settle for. We become what we focus on. So we need to take charge. We need to be aware of the priming that we are doing to ourselves, as well as the priming that society is foisting upon us through social media, through other media, and to realise that the life that we think is ours, the freedoms that we consider to be basic and available to us, aren't necessarily as great and as empowering and as useful as what we first thought. So the call to action, the big call to action that Anthony Robbins asks us all to consider, is that we need to tune into the channels that serve us. And sometimes it means we need to tune into another channel, because the channel that we're currently tuned into isn't the one that's going to get us, to where we want to go, and isn't the one that's actually empowering us and allowing us to freely grow, develop, and become the best version of ourselves. So we need to be careful, is the key message. We need to be cautious. We need to be mindful. We need to be deliberate in the channel or channels that we tune into, to make sure that those channels are giving us the right tunes and directing us and guiding us along the path that's going to allow us to express ourselves freely. The channels that are going to allow us to grow and develop, as we continually have to say, because of the big catch cry from Anthony Robbins. If you want to understand what one of the key themes is, it's about growth and development. So we need to be mindful who we hang out with, because as Anthony Robbins says, friends and family are great. We all need friends and family, and humans are very, very social. We're social beings, we're social animals. We need to be with other people, but we need to be selective with who we're at, who we're with. Jim Rohn says we end up becoming the mean average, the weighted average of the half dozen people we hang out with. So we need to be selective, knowing that there are some people who are going to be against us. There are some people who are going to be with us. They're going to be supportive. They're going to be helpful. They're going to be loving. And there are some people that we need in our lives who are going to be our peer group, people who are like-minded, people who are going to challenge us, people who are going to cajole us and enable us to grow and develop. Family and friends are great, support is great, but it's not always great for you, because when you're around people who support you, who think or care for you and don't want to see you get hurt, sometimes these people will hold us back. These people here will support us and keep us in a holding pattern, keep us in a comfort zone. That's not necessarily the way we need to be in order to progress in life. Our friends and family don't want us to change. They want us to be as we were. They want me to be little Jimmy. They don't want me to be a grown-up or a different Jimmy, if you know what I mean. Because what it does is it challenges their status quo. It changes the dynamics of a family. It changes the way we relate and react with each other. But the reality is that life is changing, is dramatically changing at a fast pace. The only thing that we have, the only constant that we have in life is God, and the fact that everything is changing. This stream is changing. The river is never going to be the same. That water is never going to stay in the same spot. The river is constantly reinvigorating, renewing itself. And as such, we humans are called to renew ourselves and to reinvigorate ourselves every single day of our lives. So in order to do that, we need to change. We need to change, and we need to change on a regular basis. So the big call to action, I guess, once again, from Tony Robbins, is to invite and to embrace change in our lives. And in order to do that, we need to tap into a different channel. The next point that Tony Robbins makes is that we all have an emotional home, an emotional thermostat that we all revert back to. So once again, this can either be good or it can be bad, because emotions can serve us, but they can also damage us if we don't take control of the emotions and we don't use them in a way that serves us. This emotional home, this emotional thermostat, for some people is their unbringing, is the thing that causes them to sabotage themselves. They're in a relationship, they're in a job, everything's going well, then all of a sudden they react to something in a way which they can't control, and they don't understand why, how it all comes about. But they're in a relationship, and 3 months into that relationship, as we heard at UPW, something happens which damages that relationship, and that relationship ends because there is some cognitive dissonance happening at the conscious level or at a subconscious level, which causes issues that become unresolved and change the state that the people or the person is in. The mental, physical, spiritual, different types of states that cause further problems. We have this emotional home that we return to. It's our go-to emotional home. So one of the key lessons is that we need to be able to understand what this emotional home is that we have in terms of our thermostat or our basic go-to state, and to challenge it, to question it, and ask ourselves, is this home state a state that helps me grow and develop? Is it a place that when I return to it makes me a better person? empowers me. Because one of the big lessons that I learnt, not at this UPW, but at the first UPW that I went to, was that Anthony Robbins said that people basically communicate for one of two reasons. There is only one of two reasons that we communicate. One is to express love, and the other one is to express a call for help. So we need to listen in. We need to tune into what people are saying and try and empathize and try and figure out what they are saying and why they are saying it. Is it an act of love or is it a cry for help? What are the fears? What are the uncertainties? What are the doubts that they have that is causing them or causing you to communicate in a particular way? I found that really profound because, as Anthony Robbins says, is that we all are in a different season of our lives. Some are in summer, some are in winter. We all have different seasons, and we all have different phases and chapters, and are at different places or different steps along a particular path. But we all need to appreciate that we're different. We're different from each other and we're different for each other, but we need to respect and understand those differences and to know that we need to meet people where they are. We need to meet people where they are and not where we want them to be or where we are. So where this all leads is to the BS, the belief systems. And as Anthony Robbins says, a belief system is the way you see the world, the way you see yourself, the way you fit into the world. And these belief systems are influenced by lots of things in our lives, and we have positive thoughts, we have good thoughts, and we have negative thoughts. We have communication with ourselves and others that is an act of love, and an act of love is an act of sacrifice where we give up of ourselves for the betterment of somebody else, or an act of fear where we are crying out for help. So that's where we need to listen in. This is where we need to tune in and to listen intently to find out why, especially why we people have or harbour these negative fears or negative emotions or negative thoughts. And those negative thoughts, as we say, are because people have fears. They're worried about losing something. They're worried about experiencing pain. They're worried about reverting back to a time when they did have pain, suffering, and felt extremely uncomfortable, thinking that that time will come back and they'll never be able to outrun that saber-toothed tiger. So Anthony Robbins is very, very big into looking into the belief systems that we all have, and once again to challenge those belief systems and to ask yourself, is this belief system going to help me, or is this belief system going to hinder me? Is it empowering me, or is it disempowering me? I hear a lot of people talking about conspiracy theories, and they have all these theories about how the world operates. And I ask them a simple question. How is that belief system that you have, how is that theory that you have going to help you? How is it going to help you today? And how is it going to help you in the future? How is it going to help you get through life and motivate you and help you build momentum? Because if you're holding on to a belief system that's just going to cause you to procrastinate, cause you to push away people, push away from society and not do things, then you're not going to have the momentum or the energy level to be able to propel you to where you need to go. Check this out. Who would have thought that in the middle of the bush we'd find a piano, an illegally dumped piano. Oh geez, this is beautiful. Let's see if it works. No, doesn't work. But what an image. Here we go. I'm making music in the forest. Wow. I haven't been down here for a while. I used to walk through here all the time when it was COVID, and we'd try and get away from the house and try and regain our sanity. What a time that was. Got people to think about things, got people to delve into negativities, got people to hate government, hate authority, hate each other, hate being told what to do, hate the police. It was a terrible time. Hopefully those days are behind us. But sadly, a lot of people have held on to that trauma. And having been through COVID, like most people, where it impacted the globe, I understand how it works, and I understand that people were traumatized, because we were all traumatized to a certain extent, not knowing, not having any certainty in terms of where we were heading with our futures. So once again, that was a very, very troubling, emotional time for most families. Children not going to school, people not being able to go to work, and just not knowing where the next variant was going to come from and how dangerous it was going to be. Anyway, let's move on here. The other thing that Tony Robbins says is he talks about the fact that words are connected to emotions, and there are 4,600 words for emotion. I think the English language has, hundreds of thousands of words. I think it could have up to about 6 or 7, 800,000 words in it. And of those words, there are 4,600, at least 4,600, may I add, that have been linked to emotion. And the other interesting thing is also that the majority of those words are linked to negative emotions. And most people live their lives with 12 or less words for describing their emotions. I remember learning at some point that the quality of a person's life is directly related to the expanse of their vocabulary. The more words you have to describe the nuances in the world around you, the nuances in your feelings, And, the more words you have to describe those, but it's not only about you describing it, but it's also about other people being able to understand what you're saying. But if you're just looking at yourself, the more words you have in your vocabulary in order to express how you feel about something, then the better off you're going to be. You don't have a limited choice of words to describe how you're feeling, and knowing that those words are going to actually become your reality. So if you have lots and lots of words to describe things, then your life is going to be more colourful and more interesting. So words are very, very powerful. Tony Robbins is very, very big on transformational vocabulary, and he says that words are really, really powerful in our world. And the more words you understand, the more things that you're able to label in a productive and an empowering way, then the better your experience, the more accurate your experience is going to be. The problem that we all have is that we limit our experiences in life by the words that we choose. And if you've got a poor vocabulary, and once again, most people's vocabulary is only about 2,000 or 3,000 words from what I understand, and most people's habitual vocabulary is about 200 or 300 words. So what happens is the less education one has, the less ability they have to be able to communicate their feelings to themselves and to others, which causes the big issues. As you can see here, we've got a bush turkey just digging around and just trying to find some food. Very, very interesting. It's a beautiful part of the world here. And these bush turkeys here abound and walk around freely. And as you can see, he doesn't give a damn that I'm here, just meters away. He will continue to rake back and get the morsels. Just as an aside, in case you weren't aware, my mother told me this years ago. The reason why we have turkey for Christmas is because of this raking back action that this turkey is doing. Because Christmas is a time of reflection where we look back over the year to see all the things that we've achieved. It's a time of reflection where we look back, we rake back through the things that have happened and remember the birth of Jesus. And it's an opportunity to reflect on our achievements for the year. And the reason why Greeks have pork for New Year is because a pig, when it eats, it uses its snout to push forward. And New Year's Day is a day to look forward and to make goals and to make resolutions and to look forward in your life, whereas Christmas is a day to look back over the year. New Year's Day is the beginning, whereas Christmas is a time to look back. So just as an aside, just looking at this turkey here raking back and just picking up those leaves and moving them back and eating the grubs that it finds along the way is just an opportunity to, I guess, express and learn something new and different. So once again, the key message is that we are shortchanging ourselves with the language that we use. So we need to be mindful of the language that we use and to make sure that we try and build our inventory, our weaponry, and that is having a better vocabulary, having a vocabulary that'll serve us, having more accuracy in our communication skills with each other and with other people. And for that reason, Anthony Robbins and all the greats, Jim Rohn, Steve Covey, Wayne Dwyer, all of those people talk about the importance of reading. Jim Rohn says, miss your lunchtime, but don't miss your reading time. And to read every single day, because through reading, we build our vocabulary. Through reading, we tap into OPE, other people's experiences. Through reading, we're able to benchmark and compare our view of the world, our slithers of reality, to other people's slithers of reality, to make an assessment as to whether or not we see the same thing or we see something different. And through reading, we have access to people's deep thinking, because in order to publish and write a book, you need to sit down, you need to think deeply, you need to access your soul and to concentrate and compress 10, 20, 30, 50 years of your life experiences into 300 or so pages that people can read in, say, 10 hours or so. So the beauty of reading, the beauty of accessing OPE, other people's experiences, is that you get to live other people's lives without giving up your own life, without the risks of making their mistakes and learning from their errors and also learning from their successes. So once again, another call to action: read, read, read. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. The wheel has already been invented. You just need to apply it. You need to use what other people have found out. And there's nothing new in the universe. All of the problems, all the challenges, all of the things that you're looking for in your life have been searched for, have been experienced from somebody else over the thousands of years that humans have been on this planet. So all you have to do is just ask the question. And as Anthony Robbins says, be curious and try and find and model yourself on people who have had a similar sort of thought and found out an answer. Because it's all about pattern recognition, pattern utilization, and changing our own patterns. Because the more problems we solve, the more problems we're capable of solving. The more patterns we have loaded up into our subconscious, into our conscious, the more we're able to compare and contrast what we see to the patterns that we've got in our mind, and then being able to anticipate what's going to happen. The key thing in the world, as Anthony Robbins reminds us over and over and over again, is that everything is cyclical. Everything is just a pattern, just going through its stages of beginning, end, and the road doesn't end in reality. So where we see the road ending, when we get to where we think it's an end, it's actually a bend, and it just moves off into another direction and then comes back and around, and it's cyclical. So that gives us confidence. That gives us consistency, that allows us to do things without worrying about where it's going to take us, because we know we can predict to a certain level of accuracy how things are going to happen. And whilst history never repeats itself entirely, it does have a theme which repeats over and over again. So once again, do what you can do, read as much as you can read, because life is an experience. Yeah, you're not going to achieve a lot by doing nothing. Fair enough, not everybody can do everything in their lives. There are certain limitations that people have because of illness, because of age, and all of these other things. But as I learned from Anthony Robbins, not this time around, but years ago, he says that there are people who are paraplegics or quadriplegics. I remember him talking about a particular person, but I've just forgotten his name just now. It'll come to me at some stage. But that person says it's not what happens to you in life, it's what you do about it. W. Mitchell, that's who he was. Anthony Robbins, back in the mid-90s, talked about a fellow called W. Mitchell, who actually I was up at Nelson Bay, and I saw him in the wheelchair, and I saw his stubs for fingers, and I saw his scarred face, and I remember seeing him at a what do you call it? At a seminar that he was having in Sydney. I took my daughter Catherine to meet him, and we met him there at Nelson Bay, and he was just amazed. He was just amazed. An American in a wheelchair was just amazed that he was just minding his own business, and a fellow with 2 children come up to him and knew his name and knew his story and had been to his seminar and had heard about him from Anthony Robbins. It was one of those beautiful moments that he was just probably scratching his head, and no doubt whenever he does a seminar, he probably tells people, believe it or not, I was in Australia, minding my own business, and this guy came up to me and he was telling me all these wonderful things. But he said, and the big lesson from him is, it's not what happens to you, it's what you do about it. He realised that because he was a paraplegic, he couldn't do lots of things. He couldn't do, there were 10,000 things that he couldn't do. But he said that there are hundreds of thousands of things he still can do. So focus on the things you can do rather than the things you can't do is the key message that came from W. Mitchell, and that story I got from Anthony Robbins. And this time round he didn't quite talk about it this time, although the program is very, very similar, word for word, to what it was 30 years ago. Of course, things change, but because of the pressures of time, you just can't recall and recap and use all of those wonderful stories. But through this channel here, through this video here, I'm able to remind people about the legacy, the great legacy, and as a tribute to Anthony Robbins, to talk about the things that I have learned from Anthony Robbins over the past 30 years. Anthony Robbins also goes on to say that negative emotions have a strong hold over us. There are far more negative words that we use and that we've got in the vocabulary than what there are positive words. And this hold that words have over us is stronger than what you think, because we all have dominant emotions, as Anthony mentioned, that we've got go-to emotions. These go-to emotions are dominant emotions that influence significantly who we are and how we operate. So that's why people are sometimes inconsistent. They can be really, really nice and then all of a sudden turn. It's not necessarily that they're turning, it just means that they're trying really hard to be nice. They're working on trying to be nice and controlling their emotions, but when they're put under pressure, their go-to emotion is the place that they return to. I don't know if you've heard the story, but we can only give what we have when it comes to emotions. And one of the stories that I recall, I think it was Wayne Dyer who said this story, but he says that when you take two fruit, you take an orange and a lemon, and you place them on the table. You cut open the orange, you squeeze it, and orange juice comes out of the orange. You take a lemon, cut it in half, squeeze it, lemon juice comes out of it. You cut a watermelon and squeeze it, you get watermelon juice. The theme of this, where I'm heading with this, is what they're basically saying is that whatever you've got inside you is what you're going to express when you're pressured. Similarly, if people don't have love inside of them and you pressure them, then hate is going to come out. It's only under duress, it's only under stress that people unmask themselves and bring out their real self. That's why Anthony Robbins talks about the importance of games. He says that through sport, through games, you can learn so much about people. I remember years ago listening to one of his tape interviews of a fellow, his name was Mac something, I forget who he was, but he said that this fellow here was a businessman, a top negotiator, and he said that he loves playing golf with prospective clients because it's through golf you get to assess, you get to calibrate a person's personality and what they're like. So if you're playing golf and you putt your ball to within a metre of the hole, if they tell you, it's a gimme and they give you the putt, then it says a lot about who they are. But if they force you to play out the hole, once again, it gives you an insight into what makes them tick. And when you understand what makes them tick, what frustrates them, what makes them happy, then you're in a better position to be able to work with them and to influence them, because you know what influences them. You know how they react, how they respond. You can see how they are under pressure, unmasked. So once again, sport is a great opportunity to try and understand and work out how a person is and what makes them tick. So once again, that's something that I learnt 30 years ago, but guess what? I still remember it. I listened to that on a tape and I remember reflecting on it momentarily, but that momentary reflection is ingrained in my mind and I can still use it now 30 years later, and not only use it but pass it on to others so that they can reflect on it, so they can learn from it. It's not wasted. So part of our life mission is to live, learn and pass it on. And I come through here and I've just realised that the wall tattoos, this graffiti has changed. How interesting. I'll have to bring my granddaughters down here and just show them this new graffiti art that has exploded down here in this dam area. Just goes to show that life changes. Nothing ever stays the same. It continues to change. The world continues to morph. And what I thought was permanent here before, with all of this artwork around here, is not all that permanent, because somebody else comes with a mauve spray can and sprays over the work that others had put down here and replace it with their expression of life. A good lesson, I guess, for people, that nothing is permanent. Even the artworks around here have changed. So you can just imagine the person who had this artwork here, or the person who had the artwork behind this artwork, will come here one day and his artwork or her artwork will be superseded by somebody else's need for speed or need to express themselves. So just getting back to the theme here, we all have dominant emotions, which are go-to emotions that either serve us or hinder us, and it's up to us to figure out whether or not they serve us or they hinder us. By all means, they may serve us at some point. Obviously, they served us at some time in our past, but as we know, we change, the environment changes, people change around us. We can't continue doing the same thing over and over again and expect the same outcome when things have changed. So once again, we need to change our approach. We need to evaluate where we're up to and how things are going, and to know and ask the question, is this serving me? Is this working for me? Is this making me stronger? Is it making me weaker? And to do something about it so that you can learn, grow, develop and move forward. We need to continue to grow, because as we know, today's 8 is going to be tomorrow's 6, 5, 4, who knows what it's going to be. But it's not going to be as strong, as dominant and as powerful as what it is today, because life changes. But the thing is, we change. So it's, as Tony Robbins says, it may not be new, but it may be just new to you. For somebody who's been here before, in the past 2 or 3 months, they may know that this graffiti has changed. But I saw it, I go, oh, it's changed, it's new. But it's not new. It's just new to me, because I'm seeing it today for the first time in its changed state. And the same thing happens with people. We are changing ever so slowly. Some people are changing in a good way, in a productive way, in a controlled way, in a intended way. Other people are changing in an unintended way, but we're all changing. I guess the key that Tony Robbins says, that we all need to be changing, growing and developing in a way that we want it to go, in a way that serves us. So we need to at least have a thought about what's going on, how it's going on, and whether or not it's good for us or not, and do something about it. And we can change in an instant. We can change in a heartbeat. Nothing but nothing is permanent. The only permanent thing in our lives and in our world is God, when it's all said and done. And that in itself, that is a constant that is comforting, because everything else will be different. Everything else will be good, and then not so good. There are people who are going to let us down. We're going to let other people down. There's going to be sickness, there's going to be illness, there's going to be other challenges, there will be other challenges that are going to be part of our life experience. And we need to deal with the ups, the downs, and the meandering state or way that life takes us. And to know that we can't control everything. The only thing that we can control are the things that are within our circle of influence. The only thing we can control is the things that we choose to control, if it's possible at all. And to understand that God's will is God's will. If God doesn't will it, then we're not going to be able to do it, experience it, and enjoy it, or suffer from it. Tony Robbins reminds us once again that we can do things, but we need to have the right desire. We need to focus on it. We need to focus on the things we want to do. because when it's all said and done, what we focus on, we become. What we focus on, we can manifest. What we focus on becomes the subject of our reticular activating system, which we've talked about before. But the reticular activating system is a part of our brain that is the filter and allows us to be drawn to the things that are important to us. What's important to you? What's important to me at that particular point in time? So what we focus on tends to be what is important, what we've thought about with deep emotion is something that becomes ingrained in our conscious and our subconscious, and our bodies, our lives, the universe. God will help manifest these things in our life if and only if it is His will, and if it is good for our spiritual life, if it's good for our soul. God knows best. He's not going to allow things or too many things to happen that we can't deal with, that we can't handle. So once again, to finish off this episode today, Anthony Robbins reminds us to take action, to take bold action, because it's only through action that you progress and move. It's only through action that you do things, and it's only through action that you initiate consequences, because every action has an equal and opposite reaction. There are first, second, and third level consequences with everything that we do. So the beautiful thing about taking action is that you initiate consequences, and consequences mean things happen, and you need to study what is happening as a consequence of your action and determine, is this good? Is this bad? Is this indifferent? Is this what I expected? Is this what I anticipated? Can I use this? And if it's not, then change your action, change your approach. As long as you've got a strong goal and you know where you're heading, you need to change your approach. And then once again, study the consequences of your action to see where it takes you. So I think I'll leave it there. So thank you very much once again for joining me on this episode of everything that I've learnt over my life with Anthony Robbins, and we'll continue along this journey. You're most welcome to join me. As I say, my initial goal is to do 50 videos. I wouldn't be surprised if I get to 500 videos. Already on my YouTube channel, I've got over 1,600 videos that I've put together, covering book summaries and life experiences. So I'll continue along this path for as long as I can, for as long as I've got health, mental, physical, emotional and spiritual, because I know there is so much material that I have learnt through and on behalf of Anthony Robbins and his influence. And he, as well as many other people, gave me the thirst many, many years ago to pursue growth, development and studying the science of learning and the science of performance. So we'll chat again. Take care. Wishing you all the very best, and we'll see where this journey takes us. Take care and have a great day.